There is a bottle on your shelf right now with a picture of a tree on it, maybe a little cabin in the woods, maybe the word farms. You pour it over pancakes on a slow Sunday, you stir it into oatmeal, you hand it to a grandchild without a second thought. And there is a real chance that the liquid inside has never been anywhere near a maple tree. Here is the part I want you to hear before anything else. If you have been buying that bottle for years, you did not get careless. You did not fail to read. The label was built, on purpose, to let your eyes fill in a story the ingredients never tell. The picture does the lying so the words don't have to. Real maple syrup is one of the slowest foods left in the American grocery store. It takes about 40 gallons of sap, boiled for hours, to make a single gallon of syrup. The brands we're about to walk through contain 0 gallons of that. Not a little. 0. And the one that costs the most, the one that dresses itself up as the careful choice, is the worst offender of all. So here's the only rule you need for the next 20 minutes. The front of the bottle is a painting. The back of the bottle is a confession. We're going to read the confession together, 7 of them, worst to first. Then I'll show you the 2 that actually earned the word maple. Let's start at number 7. For most of a century, syrup just meant the brown stuff in the breakfast aisle. Nobody flipped the bottle. Why would you? It sat next to the pancake mix. It poured brown. It tasted sweet. The picture had a tree on it. That was the whole transaction. But there's a detail almost nobody knows, and it changes how you'll read every label from now on. The words maple syrup are protected by federal law. There is a federal standard of identity that says a product can only be called maple syrup if it is concentrated sap from the maple tree and nothing else. So the corn syrup brands legally cannot print maple syrup on the front. Watch what they print instead. You'll see it in a second. Not everything on this list is dangerous, and I'll tell you plainly where the science is still arguing with itself. Most of what's wrong here isn't poison. It's just not maple. Let's begin. Number 7. Log Cabin. For 135 years, this brand has owned a corner of the American breakfast table. The little cabin, the warm brown tone, a name that whispers frontier, firewood, something tapped straight from the forest. Generations grew up assuming it was maple, or close enough that the difference didn't matter. Now flip it over. The first ingredient is corn syrup. The second ingredient is more corn syrup, the high fructose kind. Between them, they make up the overwhelming majority of the bottle. After that, it's cellulose gum to fake the thickness, caramel color to fake the amber, salt, a preservative called sodium hexametaphosphate, and natural and artificial flavors. That flavor line is where it gets interesting. A lot of artificial maple taste leans on a single compound called sotalon. It's the molecule that gives fenugreek seed its maple-ish smell, and in tiny amounts it reads to your brain as warm, syrupy, woody. Real maple contains sotalon naturally, alongside hundreds of other compounds. Log Cabin borrows the one note and skips the orchestra. You're not tasting maple. You're tasting the memory of maple, reconstructed from a seed and a dye. And here's the tell you can see with your own eyes. Pour a little into a white dish. The color is too even. Flat, uniform, the same brown top to bottom, because it came out of a caramel color bottle, not out of a tree. Real syrup has variation in it, lighter at the edges, depth when you tilt it. Log Cabin looks printed. That's not an accident of lighting. That's what dyed corn syrup looks like. To be fair to Log Cabin, and this matters for the ranking, it is the honest one. It's cheap, and it says syrup on the front, not maple syrup, because it knows exactly what it is and isn't pretending otherwise. Remember that, because the higher we climb this list, the more the pretending costs you. The next brand charges you more for the same formula and hides it inside a shape you trust. Number 6. Mrs. Butterworth's. The bottle is the whole trick. That soft, round, grandmother silhouette has been sitting on shelves for decades doing one job, making your hands feel like they're reaching for something homemade. Nobody sculpts a bottle like that around a product they want you to think hard about. Pour it out and it's a near twin of Log Cabin. Corn syrup, high fructose corn syrup, water, cellulose gum, caramel color, salt, that same sodium hexametaphosphate, and preservatives. But there's one word on that label worth slowing down for. Caramel color. Not all caramel color is the same. The kind used to brown these syrups is made by cooking sugars with ammonia compounds, and that process can create a byproduct called 4-MeI. The long name is 4-methylimidazole. In federal animal studies, it was linked to tumors in mice, and California added it to its Proposition 65 list of substances that require a cancer warning above about 29 micrograms a day. Now here's me being straight with you, because I promised. Found in animal studies is not the same as proven to harm you at breakfast, and the amount in a serving of syrup is small. But sit with the logic for a second. To make corn syrup look like maple, they add a dye. The dye is the thing carrying a warning label in one state. The syrup is inventing a risk that maple syrup simply does not have, purely so it can cosplay as maple. And the cruel part is the price. Missers. Butterworth's often costs within $1 of real maple syrup. You're paying almost maple money, getting the grandmother bottle, and taking home corn syrup with a dye that maple never needed. The shape sold you comfort, the label spent it. If you grew up with that bottle on the table, quick, honest question you don't have to answer out loud. Did you ever once turn it around? Most people never did. That's the design. This next one knows that too, and it aims the trick at the exact people trying hardest to eat well. Number 5. Wholesome organic blue agave. This one is the surprise on the list, and not the good kind. Everything about it signals escape. Organic seal, natural foods aisle packaging, blue agave, a sweetener that sounds like it was harvested by hand somewhere sunny. This is the bottle bought by the parent who read about corn syrup and decided to do better. So why is it on the fail side? Because it's still not maple, and metabolically it may be the roughest one here. Agave nectar is roughly 90% fructose. High fructose corn syrup, the villain everyone's fleeing, is about 55%. Fructose is the sugar your liver has to process, and a steady high load of it is tied in research to insulin resistance, fatty liver, and metabolic syndrome. Agave gets a health halo because it's low on the glycemic index. It doesn't spike your blood sugar the way table sugar does. But that's exactly the trap. The blood sugar number looks calm while the liver quietly does the heavy lifting. And the maple part is theater anyway. It's agave with natural maple flavor added, the same category of isolated, concentrated flavor compound as the fake stuff 2 shelves over just sourced from something the label can call natural. Pour it and you can see the difference. It's paler, thinner, more like honey, because that's what agave is. It was never sap. You're paying $8 or $9 to avoid corn syrup and landing on something the research likes even less, wrapped in a word, organic, that you trusted to mean real. It doesn't. It means the fructose was grown without pesticides. If this is the aisle you've been shopping to feel safer, this is the moment to look harder. A quick like on this video genuinely helps it reach other people standing in that same aisle right now. So if it's earning it, tap it. Let's keep going, because the one climbing into view didn't change its formula. It just changed its name and hoped you'd assume the rest. Number 4. Pearl Milling Company, the bottle you used to call Aunt Jemima. In 2021, Quaker Oats retired the old name and its imagery and rebranded the line as Pearl Milling Company. New name, vintage-looking logo, a sense of a small heritage mill turning out something crafted. Here's what didn't change, the recipe. It's corn syrup, high fructose corn syrup, water, cellulose gum, caramel color, salt, natural and artificial flavors, and a short row of preservatives. The same table syrup, in a new coat. 2 things worth knowing. First, Pearl Milling Company is a real historical name, the 1888 company that first sold the self-rising pancake mix. So the heritage isn't fabricated, but it's being used as a costume, an old, honest name draped over an industrial product to make it feel handmade. Second, and this is where it stops being a small brand story, that bottle is owned by PepsiCo through Quaker. One of the largest food companies on earth is selling you dyed corn syrup dressed as a 19th century mill. The rebrand was a chance to change the syrup. They changed the label and kept the syrup. Watch it on the plate and you'll see the engineering. It sits on top of the pancake at first instead of soaking in, because the cellulose gum and stabilizers are tuned for a specific look and shelf life, not for being food that behaves like food. That's the theme tightening now. Every brand from here up isn't just corn syrup. It's corn syrup plus a story you're being charged extra to believe. And the next one built the most cynical story of them all, out of an actual Vermont farm. Number 3. Maple Grove Farms. Say the name slowly. Maple Grove Farms. Every word is doing a job, painting a New England sugar house, taps in the trees, steam rising off the pans. And here's the thing that makes it so effective. Part of it is true. The company started in Vermont over a century ago as a genuine maple producer. It really did earn trust the old-fashioned way. Then it learned to rent that trust out. Maple Grove Farms, now owned by the food conglomerate B&G Foods, sells two different products under nearly the same look. One is real, labeled pure maple syrup in the glass bottle, $12 to $15. The other is table syrup, corn syrup and flavoring, labeled maple-flavored syrup in smaller type, $6 or $7 for a bigger bottle. Same brand, same shelf, same font family. A shopper in a hurry grabs the cheaper one, thinking they scored the same farm syrup at a discount, and walks out with corn syrup carrying a Vermont accent. This is the one that's actually drawn legal fire. Over the years, B&G has faced class action complaints alleging its labeling misled buyers about how much real maple was in the flavored products. I want to be precise, because precision is the whole point of this channel. Those are allegations, filed claims, not a courtroom verdict I can hand you. But you don't need a judge to see the mechanism. When a brand builds credibility with a real product and then sells a fake one beside it in matching clothes, the confusion isn't a side effect. It's the business model. Check your own pantry on this one and read which bottle you actually own. The one after it doesn't borrow a farm's trust. It's the bottle nearly every family in the country has reached for. Number 2. Great Value Butter Flavored Syrup. Walmart's own label. This one is almost refreshing in its honesty, and I mean that darkly. It couldn't even claim maple. The front says butter flavored because there is no maple pretense left to make, and, worth noting, no actual butter either. It's corn syrup, high fructose corn syrup, water, cellulose gum, molasses, preservatives, caramel color, natural and artificial flavor, and again that sodium hexametaphosphate. No tree, no churn, just the shape of a breakfast, chemically implied. The butter note comes from flavor compounds, and this is where one word deserves a careful mention. Diacetyl. It's the molecule that makes things taste like butter, and it's real. It's in a lot of foods. It earned a grim nickname, popcorn lung, after factory workers who inhaled clouds of it while making microwave popcorn developed serious, irreversible lung scarring. Now hear me clearly, because the difference matters and I won't blur it. That danger is about breathing concentrated vapor in a plant, not about eating a pancake. Eating diacetyl at food levels is not what scarred those workers' lungs. I'm not telling you this syrup will hurt your lungs. I'm telling you the buttery taste you're pouring on your kid's plate is manufactured by the same compound that had to be regulated the moment humans stood too close to it. That's not a health warning. It's a portrait of how far from food this product is, and it's aimed with precision. Under $3 for a big bottle, parked exactly where the tightest budgets shop. The family stretching every dollar, the parent making Sunday pancakes special on almost nothing. That's who reaches for this. And that's who deserved better than corn syrup with a lab-built butter note. Cheap is not the crime here. Cheap dressed as breakfast is. But at least Great Value never asked you to think it was premium. The brand at number 1 did exactly that, and charged you for the privilege. Number 1. Hungry Jack Original Syrup. For decades, Hungry Jack sold itself as the brand that understood breakfast, the pancake specialist, the red and white label you trusted to be a step up. And the whole con lives inside a single word on the bottle. Original. Original sounds like authentic. Like the first one, the real one, the way it was always meant to be. But read it again. Original refers to the company's original product line, its launch, not to a single thing about maple tradition. It's a word chosen because it makes you feel heritage while promising you nothing. And behind it? Corn syrup, high fructose corn syrup, water, cellulose gum, caramel color, salt, sodium hexametaphosphate, flavors, preservatives. Line the Hungry Jack label up next to the Walmart one, the cheapest on this entire list, and they are nearly the same document. That's the betrayal, and it's why it sits at number 1, not the 6th spot. Here are the 2 hard anchors. First, the ingredients are functionally identical to the $3 store brand, the same corn syrups, the same dye, the same gum. Second, Hungry Jack asks $5 or $6 for it, positions itself as the quality choice, and even pairs it with a decent pancake mix, so your trust in the mix leaks over onto the syrup. The mix is real food. The syrup riding beside it is not. And this bottle isn't some scrappy underdog either. It's owned by a large packaged foods company, Hometown Food Company, running the same playbook as everyone below it, just with a more expensive smile. The cheapest brand and the premium brand are the same corn syrup. One of them charged you double to feel good about it. That's number one. Pause the countdown for a second, because none of this is 7 separate accidents. Step back and look at the whole shelf at once. You think you're choosing between 7 brands. You're not. Log Cabin and Mrs. Butterworth's, 2 of the most iconic names in the aisle, are the same company, Conagra. Pearl Milling belongs to PepsiCo. Maple Grove Farms belongs to B&G Foods. Hungry Jack to Hometown Food Company. The organic agave to a private holding group. 7 bottles, styled to look like 7 different philosophies of breakfast, collapse into about 5 corporations. The variety is set dressing. You're not walking a marketplace of choices. You're walking one company's mood board, 5 times over. And there's a cold economic reason the shadow category exists at all. Real maple is scarce and slow on purpose. The season is a few weeks a year. The yield is weather dependent, and it takes those 40 gallons of sap to fill 1 bottle. You cannot mass produce that on a corporate timeline, and you cannot sell it at $3. Corn syrup, on the other hand, flows from a tank all year long for pennies. So the industry solved a supply problem by manufacturing a feeling instead: the look of maple, the shelf position of maple, the price signal of maple, none of the tree. The syrup aisle isn't selling you maple. It's selling you the idea of it at maple-adjacent prices, because the real thing was never going to scale. And underneath all of it is that federal rule I mentioned at the start, the standard of identity. The law did something quietly powerful. It reserved the word maple for the real thing. So the industry did the logical, cynical workaround. If it couldn't have the word, it would build an entire parallel category around the word. Table syrup, pancake syrup, engineered to look like maple, sit beside maple cost, almost as much as maple, and legally never be maple. The word is protected. The impression isn't, and the impression is the whole product. Nothing they sold you is illegal. That's what should bother you. The system didn't break to fool you. It's working exactly as designed, and the design assumes you'll never turn the bottle around. Quick word on a test you've probably seen online, because I'd rather you trust the label than a trick. There's a viral idea that you can spot fake syrup by freezing it, that real maple won't freeze solid, and the fakes will, or the other way around depending on who's posting. Ignore it. Both real maple and corn syrup table syrup are extremely high in sugar, and it's the sugar that governs how they freeze, so their freezer behavior looks similar and tells you almost nothing. There's no clever kitchen stunt here. The only test that works every single time is the one that's free, flip the bottle, and read the first ingredient. Corn syrup means you're done. So after all that, is there anything in the aisle that actually earns the word? Yes, 2 of them. And the reason they pass is the same reason the others failed. Read backwards. The first is Coombs Family Farms Organic Maple Syrup. This is a family that's been in maple for 7 generations, going back to the mid-1800s, and works with a network of small family sugar makers. Flip that bottle and the ingredient list ends almost as soon as it starts. Maple syrup. That's it. 1 line. It meets the federal standard of identity that every brand below it had to dodge, because there's nothing in there to hide no caramel color inventing an amber it doesn't have, no added flavor faking a taste it already owns. It costs more, $12 to $15, and now you know precisely what the extra pays for: 40 gallons of real sap boiled down for every gallon in the bottle instead of corn syrup poured from a tank. The second is Crown Maple. This is what modern maple done right looks like. An independent estate in New York's Hudson Valley, started in 2010, that owns its own forest and its own sugar house, tree to bottle, tapped from Acer saccharum, the sugar maple itself. They grade honestly, golden, amber, dark, and they tell you flat out that darker means stronger flavor, not lower quality, so you can choose the intensity you actually want. Independent testing shows exactly what the label claims: pure sap, nothing added. Notice the pattern in both winners. They aren't the biggest names or the fanciest bottles. They're the ones with the shortest ingredient list. In this aisle, the shortest list wins. Take 3 things to the store tonight and you'll never be fooled again. 1, and this is the whole game, turn the bottle around and find the first ingredient. If it's any kind of corn syrup, or if the front says syrup or table syrup instead of maple syrup, put it back, no matter how pretty the front is. 2, pour a suspect syrup next to one you trust. Real maple runs thinner and shows depth of color. The fakes run thick and flat from the gum, though I'll be honest, that's a hint, not proof on its own. 3. Smell it. Real maple is woody and caramel and complicated. The fakes smell like candy, like sugar wearing a costume. Your nose is not scientific, but it's rarely wrong twice. And clear out a few myths while you're at it. Organic does not mean real maple. The agave proved that. Organic just means the sugar was grown clean. A darker grade is not a lower quality. The government reclassified the grades in 2015, and it's all grade A now. Color just tells you how bold the flavor is. Brown does not mean maple. Brown is a dye. And expensive does not mean real. The grandmother bottle and the original bottle both charge nearly maple prices for corn syrup. Price is a costume too. So here's what you can read on any shelf now, with no help from me. You know the word maple syrup is locked by a federal standard of identity, and that syrup and table syrup are the tells that it isn't. You know Sodalon is the borrowed note that fakes the smell. You know 4-MEI is the reason a dye carries a cancer warning in one state on a product that never needed a dye. You know diacetyl is the butter note that was fine to eat and dangerous to inhale, and now you know why it's even in there. You know agave hides its fructose behind a calm blood sugar number. You know Log Cabin and Missers, Butterworth's answer to the same company. And you know the shortest ingredient list on the shelf is the one telling the truth. Their whole model was built on one quiet bet, that you would pour the bottle without ever turning it around. That bet just expired. If someone you love pours the grandmother bottle every Sunday, or reaches for the one that says original, thinking it means real, send them this. That one flip of the wrist is the entire difference between maple and a painting of it.